Hey there, good listener. I got a question for you. Who's ready for a brand new cozy mystery? My brand new book, Murder Unmasked, is finally almost here. It's the second chapter in the Dog Walking Detectives mysteries, and it's got not just one, but two new murders to solve with the help of Hubie, your dead dog narrator. Go pre-order your paperback copy on the Barnes & Noble website right now and the ebook on Amazon and support this second time published author. I promise you a fun, funny, good summertime read. And now, here comes your brand new episode.
I wanted to inspire people and give people hope. And when I read the cards in 2020, I thought, oh my God, these cards apply today even more so than they did when I wrote them. Hi, I'm Geri Jewell, and you're entering a world gone good.
Well, hello. My name is Steve, and this is the place where we highlight everyday people making good happen each and every day. Welcome, one and all, to World Gone Good. Okay, if you are a 70s or 80s kid like I was, let me know if you remember this historic TV moment.
I'm looking for Blair Warner. You must be her Cousin Geri.
Yes.
Don't worry, I'm not drunk. I have cerebral palsy. When I'm drunk, I walk perfectly straight.
That was from the Cousin Geri episode of The Facts of Life. And when it aired, it was a big deal. It was the first time we saw a person with cerebral palsy playing, well, just a person. What was so brilliant about it, thanks to the brilliant creator, Norman Lear, is that he had Geri as the cousin of the character of Peak Perfection, and the last person you'd expect her to be, I'm talking Blair Warner, played by Lisa Whelchel. It was educational, it was eye-opening, but that was all subtext, because the focus was on the funny. And the funny I'm talking about is the woman who played her, Geri Jewell. And that, my friends, is just the beginning of this good story. Here comes comedian, actress, and author Geri Jewell to share all her good stuff. I don't even know what is happening here today in this moment. We have so much to discuss, but this is like a surreal moment for me because I'm 54 years old right now, but I'm also about, 11 or 12 years old, and I'm watching NBC, and I'm watching one of my favorite shows, The Facts of Life, and something incredible happens that I don't know has ever happened before, and the person who made it happen is right here with me right now. Geri Jewell, welcome to World Gone Good.
Thank you, Steve. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
We are honored to have you. We're going to hop around a little bit. Do you remember stepping on that Facts of Life stage for the first time and what you felt?
Oh, of course. Who wouldn't? It was very surreal. Actually, Norman Lear saw me perform at the second annual Media Access Awards. And he came up to me. I had just done stand-up comedy. And he introduced himself and he said, "You're real funny, kid, but you're way before your time." I said, "So, wait a couple months." And he was amused, and he waited 2 months. And 2 months later, I was cast back to life by Norman Lear.
Holy cow. When Norman Lear comes up to you, what were you like, holy shit, it's Norman Lear?
I was in a high zone, when you step off stage, you're there, but you're not there.
Yep.
So I didn't really grasp what was really going on. And later on, when I was in the elevator and we were leaving, Norman Lear stepped in the elevator with me. And I turned to my manager at the time and I said, "This is the man I was talking about." And Norman was laughing. He said, "The name is Norman Lear." And don't forget it, kid. But what people don't understand, and what you couldn't understand because it's invisible, is that I'm very hearing impaired. I have 75%, if not 80% now, hearing loss. And at the time, I was not wearing hearing aids, so I wasn't sure who he said he was. So it wasn't that I had forgotten. It's I wanted to hear it again. I wanted somebody else to hear it.
You wanted confirmation.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Now, let me ask you, have you always been the funny one in your family?
Oh, God, no. I mean, my whole family is funny, except my dad. We are trying to make him laugh. But, yeah, definitely. I get my sense of humor from my family. When I was learning how to walk, I fell a lot. I finally learned how to walk when I was about 4. And whenever I did fall, you know how parents would run to their kids and pick them up? "Oh, it's okay." Well, my mom never did that. I would fall, I would look at her and start crying, and she said, "Geri, was that trip absolutely necessary?" Everybody had a sense of humor in my family, really. I mean, I had such an incredible foundation with my parents and my sister and my brothers. But yeah, I was funny. Absolutely.
I love that your mother did that too, because I think that sets up a great life lesson, don't you?
Of course. It's interesting because I started school at 18 months old, and a special education school in Long Beach just for children with CP. At 18 months to age 7, I went to this school. And my mom didn't drive at the time, and my dad worked, so she put me in a cab every morning to go to school. And I think that experience really was an excellent foundation in creating independence for me.
That's amazing.
I know.
Today your mother would be locked up, but that's amazing.
Yep. Well, they didn't have school buses to that school back then. That was why.
Now, when did you think to yourself, "Hey, I think I want to go on stage and tell some stories, tell some jokes"?
That didn't happen until college. I was in my 3rd year of college, and I was flunking algebra again. And I was flunking anatomy and physiology, which explains a lot of my problems now. And I was in the disabled student services department, and I was really bummed out because I had flunked 2 classes, and I needed to get these my GPA to go forward. And I went to school with a young man named Alex Valdez who happened to be blind. And he said, "What are you so bummed out about, Jewel?" And I said, "Well, I'm flunking these classes and I really don't want to be here anyway." He said, "Well, what do you want to be?" I said, "I want to be in show business. I want to be like my idol, Carol Burnett." And he said, "Well, why don't you do what I do?" "Well, what do you do?" "Well, I go to the Comedy Store every week and tell blind jokes." And I said, "Well, Alex, that may work for you, but I don't know if you've noticed, but I can see you just fine." And he said, he used to call me Dinky Face. That was his nickname for me. He said, "Dinky Face, you're going to go on stage and tell cerebral palsy jokes at the Comedy Store." So I give Alex credit and I blame Alex for this whole journey. And I started doing comedy in 1978 at the Comedy Store. And remember on amateur night when they used to put your name in the hat, and if you got pulled, you got on, you were lucky.
Right.
Well, Alex and John. John was a good friend too. He was our driver. He drove better than Alex and me together. And Alex introduced me to Danny Moore, who ran the original room. And Danny didn't think it was a good idea for me to stand in line every Monday to see if I got on. And it wasn't just the physical disability, the physical aspect of it. It was that he had never seen anything like me before. Somebody with a physical disability doing comedy. And he didn't want Missy Shore to see me until I had time to grow and polish and really be a good comedian. So he said, "What I want to do is, she might be okay with it, but she might not. And I don't want to take that risk one way or the other right now. So I want you to come up here every Monday night around 11:30, knock on the back door, tell him to tell Danny Moore that Geri's here. Geri Jewell is here." So that's what I did. And the first night that I arrived, I knocked on the door. I was so nervous, you have no idea. And I said, "Tell Danny Moore that Geri Jewell's here." So they did. And as soon as Missy Shore left the room, Danny ran up to the MC and said, "Introduce Geri Jewell from Orange County right now." Introduce Geri Jewell. Okay, all right. Now we have a comedian, Geri Jewell from Orange County. Let's give him a big hand. Because my name was Geri, he assumed I was a man. So I walked up on stage and you could hear a pin drop.
Wait, I have a question. Are you still nervous at this point?
Oh yeah, just a little bit. A part of me wanted to run. And my first line that I ever told at the Comedy Store, I said, "I don't know about you people, but I've heard an awful lot about the gays that have been coming out of the closet lately." And then you could hear a pin drop again. But what you haven't heard about are all the cerebral palsy people that have been coming out of the closet. And it was really quiet. Nobody was laughing. And I said, "But let's keep it a secret between you and me. Don't tell anybody about me. I don't want Anita Bryant to hear about me, because then she'll get on another bandwagon and she'll go around saying, we must stop these people with cerebral palsy teaching in our public schools. Before you know it, all our children will be influenced by her and they'll all be walking like this. And that was my opening line.
And how did they then react?
They laughed hysterically. I had him in the palm of my hands, and I ended up getting a standing ovation the first night I ever performed.
Something with you is that you really want to connect with people. That's what comedy is all about. And I had a short-lived stand-up comedy, but you'll laugh because you'll be able to relate. I had a full-time job. I was 24 years old, and I was going out to clubs, including the Comedy Store, and trying to get up there, right? Trying to get up there, and I was going to all sorts of places, trying to get up on the stage, and then it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I have to be at work the next day at 9 a.m.
Oh, my.
Yep. And so that's basically why I stopped. But I got my break because there's a gay comedian named Scott Silverman, and my name is Steve Silverman. And one of the people at the Comedy Store thought I was Scott Silverman, and they put
funny.
me. Yep, they put me on stage. I went up between Damon Wayans and Mark. Was it Curry from Hanging with Mr. Cooper? I went up between Damon Wayans and Mark Curry. I think that's his name. And they introduced me as Scott Silverman. And I got up to the mic, and I corrected them. And I did. Yeah, and they didn't. No, there was nobody yanked me off immediately. But I did I did about, I don't know, they gave me like 5.5 minutes, right? Red light goes on, got 30 seconds. Yeah, and that's something I wanted to ask you. So when that red light goes on, do you have a closer in your mind where you're like, I got to get there and close? Or you're like, I'm just going to be in my moment and do my best and wrap it up?
I've gotten probably 2 red lights in my whole career.
You're way better than me.
I'm serious. I'm the comedian that never goes over. And I don't even pay attention to the red light because I'm looking at the audience. So I never even let that be a part of my life. And there was a part of me that loved being on stage and a part of me that hated it, that wanted to get off as soon as I could. And it was the physicality of it, of holding the mic still in front of my mouth, speaking clearly, not slurring my speech. It was so much work for me to do it. A part of me didn't want to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. It's something I don't think any of us would have thought of.
So I remember doing Evening at the Improv, and it's recorded. I have it on video. I know the younger audience don't even know what a video is. But we came for rehearsal earlier, and the guy who was directing the show said that when you see the red light, close your act. I don't care where you are, close the act and get off stage. And I asked him if I could see the red light, and he thought it was a joke. He said, you want to see the red light? Yeah, I want to see it now. And Geri, just don't worry about it. You've been doing this for how many years? And I felt so insecure, I didn't want to tell him that I was insecure. So, okay. So I'm on stage, right? And performing. And I'm looking at the audience. And I notice out of the corner of my eye, there's a red light. And I thought, oh my God, I timed this wrong. I could have sworn I did 15 minutes, but now God, I timed it really wrong. Well, and I just know how to handle it. Well, it's been really nice. I'll see you later. Goodbye. I walked off stage. And Bud Friedman, who owned the Improv, came up to me afterwards backstage and he said, Jewel, why did you get off stage? You have 12 more minutes. I do? Because the MC was in the bar having a drink and he had to run back on.
So what red light did you see?
Well, that's the thing. He said, why did you get off stage? And I said, because I saw the red light. And he said, Geri, there was no red light. Yes, there was. There was a blinking red light. And he said, Geri, that was the camera light. So there was this, when the MC went back on stage, he said, let's give a big hand for Geri Jewell for a very funny, sweet, and short act.
That is amazing. Okay, so the Facts of Life happens, and in the moment, I've not bragging. I've been on the sets of a couple 3-camera sitcoms. I know that there's dress rehearsal days and blocking days and all those days prepping for it, right? And then it's show night, right?
Yes.
And are you running on the same energy that you do when you go to a club? Are you more nervous? Are you less nervous? Are you like, I don't want to screw this up because I'm holding this big weight on on my shoulders of representing so many people I want to represent, positively?
I was nervous, but it was a different kind of nervousness because I'm not carrying the whole show. I got a whole cast. So that kind of is a different form of nervousness. You know, when you do stand up, it's all you. You have nobody to fall back on. And I knew that if I made a mistake, they would take 2. You know?
Right.
Yeah. So, but it was amazing. It was surreal. It was incredible. We filmed, I think, a week before Christmas, and my first episode of Facts of Life aired on Christmas Eve, 1980. And it got the highest ratings that Facts of Life had ever gotten at that point. So the executive producers and NBC said, we got to look at this. These are good ratings. And they brought me back.
Now, Lisa Whelchel played your cousin. And here's my question about Lisa. What kind of virgin blood is she drinking? Because she doesn't age. Have you seen her lately? I have seen her. It's like she's frozen in time. Can we go over to her house and find out what she's doing and steal her secrets?
Well, actually, she's coming over here tomorrow.
Okay, good. Great. Ask her for me.
No, we're going to have dinner together. And she does look amazing. I mean, I don't know how she does, but she takes very, very good care of herself.
We look amazing too, Geri.
Well, I'm a lot older than Lisa. I'm going to be 68 this year.
Not a girl.
And I do feel older than because, age and cerebral palsy is a wonderful aging myth. Physically, I'm challenged more now than I ever was before physically because I'm dealing with issues of aging and CP. Where doctors are seeing this for the first time in baby boomers because we were the first generation of people with cerebral palsy that were proactive, that went out there and worked, that led as normal lives as we could. Before us, people with cerebral palsy were rarely employed. they lived at home with their parents or they were institutionalized. And they had a whole different aging process because they didn't beat up their bodies like we did. So there's a whole new issue of aging in CP that we're looking at. The doctors are learning from us, not because they already knew all the answers. So it's an interesting journey I'm taking. And I'm not angry about it. I'm not bitter about it because I believe that I'm probably paying my CP dues because, I'm very blessed. I mean, there wasn't anything I couldn't do. Well, almost anything. But, I mean, I learned how to ride a bike. I learned how to ride a skateboard. When I went to the ocean, my mom and dad let me swim out as far as I could. They never held my hand and did everything for me. The only thing that bugged me about the ocean is that the lifeguards always thought I was drowning, and they would come after me with inner tubes. And
You're just doing your act now. Come on.
no, I'm serious. And everybody would be standing up on the beach saying, "Oh my God, there's a kid drowning out there." And I would be kicking the inner tubes and the lifeguard and say, "Leave me alone. This is the way I swim." So I always commanded an audience no matter what I did. Even when I was diagnosed, I have an audience. I was diagnosed at 18 months old at UCLA. We moved out from Buffalo, New York to meet with these doctors who were the most progressive on birth defects at that time. And we went into the doctor's office and he said to my mom, he said, I'm going to attend a symposium later on this afternoon. Could I have your permission to use Geri as an example of a baby with cerebral palsy at the symposium and do the diagnosis in front of 300 medical students? And my mom said, "Oh, no problem, of course." So I'm literally sitting on my first stage at 18 months old, and he's diagnosing me in front of all these doctors. And they don't know then that I'm hearing impaired. I mean, I can't really hear what's going on. I'm just smiling and having a good time. I'm on stage. And he wants to thank my mom, so he said, "Let's give a hand for Mrs. Jewell, who allowed us to," and they called me Geraldine back then. I wasn't Geri, I was Geraldine. And Geraldine, and they all applauded. And I thought they were applauding at me. I thought, wow, they really like me. He created my first performing experience.
That was your first gig?
Yeah, 18 months old.
Oh my God. And wait, you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're such a performer that you remember this because that's such a...
Well, I have one photo of it, and I've heard the story from my mom several times.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's my clear memory or the photo that jogged the memory. I don't know.
Let's talk about the book. Geri's Jewels and Gems is a collection of Geri Jewell's columns she wrote for Ability magazine over 6 years, as well as fun photos from Geri and her life that she chose herself. Here's the question about the book. When you went back and started reading these articles, these
columns,
thank you, that you wrote, Did you see yourself as a different person then, and looking back at it now, like, why the hell did I write that? Or, oh, yes, I do relate to that. Or, who wrote that?
Well, you know what's interesting is that when I write and sometimes when I perform, if I'm really doing good and I'm not just faking it, but I'm just really doing a good show, I go to a higher place, and sometimes I don't even remember what I did on stage. Uh, And it's a spiritual thing. It's like a higher realm of energy that comes through me. And it happens when I write. So it was 2020 and we were experiencing the California lockdown and COVID and all that. And it was just a nightmare. And there was a lot of depression, a lot of anger, not from me per se, but a lot of fear. And I thought, I wonder what I can do because I couldn't go out, and do anything. I couldn't do stand up again yet. And I thought, people are scared. And then I thought about the columns I wrote for Ability, and they were very positive, very funny. There was some columns that were kind of poignant and sad a little bit, but you cried a good cry, not a painful one. I wanted to inspire people and give people hope. And when I read the columns in 2020, I thought, oh my God, these columns apply today even more so than they did when I wrote them.
Right.
And today, 2024, even more so. And this was another gift that I was given to. My sister Gloria was good friends with Dr. Randall Bell. We became friends basically after my sister passed 7 years ago from lung cancer. Very, very painful time in my life. And he gave me a lot of support in these years after my sister passed, because my sister and I were very close. And one of the gifts he gave me was he had his own publishing company. And he said, if you want to write another book, I will publish it for you. And he was a man of his word, and he published it. And then I needed someone to write the foreword for the book. And I thought of Norman Lear. And so I called him and I told him about the book. And he said, well, come on over to the home right now. Come on over and let me look at it. So Randall Bell and I drove to Norman's house. And out of a fluke, Dustin Hoffman was there. So
What?
I got to spend like an hour and a half with Norman and Dustin Hoffman. I mean, how many people experienced that? Brilliant men, absolutely brilliant. And we're discussing the book. And I told Norman that I asked him if he would write the foreword for it. You know, Norman, it's a coffee table book. And he said, well, what if they don't have a coffee table? Then what? And I said, well, I'm sure they'll find a place for it. And that's when that was born. And at 101, Norman Lear gave me his last gift in life to me was to write the foreword for Geri Jewell and Jim. And another funny thing about this book is when I was discussing a title. I wanted to call it Geri's Treasures or something like that. And Randall he said, well, why don't you just call it Geri's Jewels? Randy, because then it'll just sound like a sex book. And he said, but it'll sell more copies.
Right.
And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I'll use it if you, I know, let's call it Geri's Jewels and Gems. Then then I'll use it. So that's how Geri's Jewels and Gems were chosen to be the title.
Okay, where can people find this book? Where can they purchase the book?
Well, you can find it on my coffee table.
Don't give out your address, please.
I'm not giving out my address. So you can find it at Barnes & Noble, the website. There's actually going to be a book signing and interview, book launch at the Barnes & Noble at the Grove in LA on August 7th. But you have to click on the Barnes & Noble link to buy the book and get a reserved spot that evening at the interview. So I'm really excited about it because I love this book. I had a book that came out in 1984 called Geri. I mean, how more creative can you get?
We close these shows with 2 questions. Don't panic, you know the answers. Question number 1 is anything you want to say. The question is this: who inspires you?
I had so many people that inspired me. I early on, it was definitely my mom, because she was a strong woman, and she was definitely a big part of my independence, and allowed me to do what I did with my life. Carol Burnett, of course, was a huge inspiration to me. And I dare say this, because I'll never hear the end of it once I say this. David Cassidy inspired me.
Was there a little crush on David Cassidy?
A little crush? A big, big, big crush.
Wow.
And I met David. I mean, there's not anybody that I haven't met that I wanted to. It's just my life has always been surreal. In fact, I can remember when I was in high school. Remember when we bought Teen Beat magazine and Tiger Beat and all that?
Oh, sure.
And I had collected all these magazines with David. My whole one wall in my bedroom was covered with David Cassidy. And I brought all my David Cassidy pictures to school when I was in high school. And I gave them to a classmate who also had a crush on David Cassidy. Said, you can have all my pictures of David Cassidy. And she was just so overwhelmed that I would give that to her. A part of the reason I did that was because I knew how much she meant to him. I mean,
he meant to her, right?
Let me rephrase that. I knew how much he meant to her and how much, she would appreciate it. But also because I knew intuitively I was going to meet him. In fact, I used to carry his picture in my wallet, and I still have it to this day somewhere. And in high school, I wrote on the back of his picture, David Cassidy, I'm going to meet him someday. And so I am definitely a believer in creative visualization.
The final question we ask is not a question. It is a statement to finish. You can finish it any way you want. Just finish this. Tell me something good.
There's so much goodness and so much gratefulness that I have in my life right now. I would have to say it is definitely, this book is something very good. And I just learned how to cook salmon, and it's very, very good.
Thank you, Geri, for sharing your good jewels and gems. If you're in the LA area, check out the book signing she is having at the Barnes & Noble in the Grove on Wednesday, August 7th. And go grab your copy of her inspiring new book wherever you get your books. Next time on World Gone Good.
I always wanted to work with animals, and I never knew what that would look like. And here it is. I don't have to sit behind a desk from 8 to 5, and follow your dreams. You never know where they're going to take you, and they might come true.
Diane Dietrich followed her dreams right to the farm. And by farm, literally, I'm talking Greener Pastures. It's a 2023 top-rated great nonprofit winner and featured on Redfin's bucket list of things to see and do in San Luis Obispo, California. We are talking everything from taking big risks to slimming down big animals like Dinky the pig, who went from 130 pounds to 110, and she did it without Ozempic. Go Dinky. It's an all-new episode all about finding your passion and following your path. I can't wait for you to hear it. Until then, be good.